Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Proving Grounds, where we start the upper bracket round 2 and kick more teams into the lower bracket. I'm honored to be your host for the day, Komi Kangas, and joining me is the big-brained amateur broadcaster / big heart amateur believer in Smacks. How's it going, Smacks?
It's pretty good, yeah. Unfortunately, both of those things won't apply for today, as we only have academy teams on. I don't actually know why I'm here when there's no amateur teams. I don't know who I'm supposed to root for, but
it's for your good looks.
I'm glad to be here regardless.
We appreciate your presence on the desk, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And we want to prevent you from having to watch AoE Gingy Turmeric lose tomorrow. So I think that's another big reason. You know, it would be too hurtful for you. But we also, of course, have the always enigmatic Mad Magical. How's it going, Mad Magical? Yep, there we go. That pretty much sums up Mad Magical in one sound, everybody. We want to kick off the show today by catching up on things that are happening outside of Proving Grounds before we get into the PG show itself. And Champs Q Summer Season 2, I believe, or it might be Split 3 if I'm remembering correctly, is still underway. And we got standing so far. Magical, that's a lot of Academy players in the top 10.
Top 10? I'm looking at the top 5. 4 of the 5 spots Academy players. And not to mention Tomio and Armeo. That's going to be our second series of the day. Ooh. Those two junglers both competing against one another for that top position at the moment. It makes it even more hype to look forward for that series.
Yeah, both the 80 carries up there as well for that second series. Yon and Kaori at 4 and 11 respectively. Speaking of 80 carries, Neo. He's making his way up on the standings, and we're going to see a piece of him earlier than those other gamers later, so I'm excited for that too.
And big note that this would have included amateur players as well competing in Proving Grounds, but as of right now, the Academy players are higher up in the standings at Champs Q, but only 21 points separating Tomio and Armeo. That is absolutely absurd. And I'm so excited that we get to watch that match today.
I mean, I got a lot of history.
See some information about that match.
Well,
today,
I was like just kind of alluding to it and giving a little prelude to that. It's really interesting to see that matchup because you got the General and Armeo, this guy who's been one of our best controlled junglers in Academy for a long time. And many, including myself at the beginning of the year, argued that maybe he should deserve a spot back in the LCS. And he's really been proving it as of late. And he's going up against Tomio, more of a younger player that has a very similar style to control, trying to set up his lanes. And for a while, was struggling with that. But now we see that he's getting a foothold again. How he was able to play against CLG Faith, how he was able to play just last week as well against, I'm trying to remember the team now. Where's my notes?
Wait, you're asking about last week's schedule?
Last week, they played CLG Faith and they played 100 Next. That's who it was.
There you go.
And it was, I had to remember, just had to look through my notes. But yeah, in both series, Tomio looked like he was actually learning like more of the control style similar to Armeo.
But outside of Champions Q performances and previews of what's going to come ahead, I do want to still give a shout out to 2 players from Academy. They got an opportunity to play in LCS this past weekend. Love it or hate the decision, it was awesome to see players like Prismal and Leader get an opportunity to get onto that LCS stage. Smacks, I'm actually interested in your thoughts on this one first. I'm going to start with you and then get over to Magical, because Leader's a player that when we saw him signed for Academy, I think the assumption was people were looking at him for LCS.
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise that he eventually made his way up to that LCS spot. I think a lot of people were expecting it to happen a bit sooner. No slight to Ablaze Olive, but it was pretty obvious that that's what Golden Guardians were looking to do. What isn't quite so obvious is the fact that they were able to role swap Prismal into the support role and have him make his debut into LCS as well. I know I've been a big Prismal fan for a very long time, and while this isn't the exact look that I expected to get from him in the LCS all those years ago, I'm still very happy about it.
And I also want to make sure, I did this with Soul, that we temper our expectations with these players, because Leader had just recently come over with his visa, so he didn't get very much time in Academy to really practice. You have Prismal, a recent role swap. He role swapped through the off season. That's how recent it was, just from spring to summer, and now is in LCS playing. So make sure you're not going too harsh on these players, because they still have a lot of potential. I think they got a lot of room to grow, but we got to obviously get to that point first.
and both of them playing on brand new rosters here at the LCS stage. Big moment for both of them, and hopefully they can continue developing and improving and showing what they got going forward. With that said, let's bring our attention now to ProvingGrounds itself, because that is what this show is all about, starting with the upper bracket. This is the matches that will be highlighted today as well as tomorrow, and we're starting with the top half of the upper bracket with FlyQuest Academy versus Dignitas Academy, and then Team Liquid Honda versus Evil Geniuses Academy. And Smacks, look at that! There's an amateur team that made it past round 1 in the upper bracket.
The Seed 2 curse continues forward in this year. It's happened 4 times out of the 4 Proving Grounds that we've witnessed. So 100 Thieves Academy, the only squad there to lose to an amateur team so far. I think it's going to happen some more in the lower bracket, but as of right now, we do only have that one amateur team in the top 8 of the upper bracket. And yeah, we're going to be seeing them tomorrow. The matches today, we've got a bunch of academy teams here in the upper quarterfinals. Super excited for this as well. I've got a lot of players that I'm really excited to watch today, too.
See, I don't want you to jump the gun on the second seed curse, because second seed curse also entails losing in the lower bracket right away. So don't go and jinx it and ruin the curse, because 100 Thieves still have possibility.
Let's take a look at their chances by looking at the lower bracket here, Magical. I'm happy you bring that up, because we can take a look at who is matching up against whom, and it's 100 Thieves Academy versus Taco Gaming. I actually don't know if I'm happy about it.
It's happening on Taco Tuesday.
Yeah. What do we think, though, about in general here the matchups? Magical, I want to hear from you first for the lower bracket, but then also, Smacks, I'd love your input on some of the amateur teams that you think can pick up wins specifically against academy teams.
So when I look at a lot of these teams, and I will say I was really hyped for a lot of them. 100 Thieves next, AoE, they were looking great, Taco Gaming, Cincinnati Fear. But you can tell the difference between academy to amateur with these past 2 Proving Grounds we've had. There's just so much more attention, obviously, because you have more of that infrastructure in academy. It helps them build up these players and bounce back from any losses and get themselves momentum. While amateur, they are talented players. They have those abilities, the hands to really check those of academy players, but they don't necessarily have the same resources.
What I love is that they have very unique drafts as well. That's been the funnest part for me to watch amateur teams. So, Smacks, what are your thoughts?
I think as far as amateur upsets over academy teams, I think the biggest one down there in the lower bracket is actually going to be Cincinnati Fear versus TSM. I think Cincinnati Fear showed a lot in their tank against Cloud9, just didn't quite come to fruition. I think those drafts you were talking about really came into play. They had the Karthus versus the Nila champion matchup there, which I think is really, really solid. Big eyes on Sketch Brady in that bottom lane. I think he's going to be delivering some pretty cool performances up against TSM. I'm definitely going to be watching that match, but Taco Gaming, I expect them to do very well. Their match isn't on a Tuesday, though. So
is it not? I thought it was.
That is a nerf. That is a nerf.
Thursday.
No, they're not playing tomorrow.
Oh, it's Thursday. It's Thursday.
I love your enthusiasm, but I do have to bring up that we did all give our predictions at the beginning of the tournament, how many wins amateur teams would get against academy teams going into this Splits Proving Grounds. And let's take a look at it, because you got to gain some ground here, Smacks. You were the one that said 10, the highest number listed. And currently, Mazel is the only accurate one, as 3 wins have been picked up.
Yeah, but that means Mazel is going to be wrong the fastest, Kangas, okay? As soon as we get another amateur win, Mazel can't possibly be right for the rest of the tournament, and that's definitely going to happen. So I can't wait for the bane of my existence, Lennon Mazel White, to be wrong once and for all. Can't happen today. There's no amateur teams playing today.
So wait, are we playing like
tomorrow?
Are we playing like Price is Right rules here, where it's like if you're under, then you automatically lose? Or is it the other way around?
I don't know. I think it's just if you get the exact number right, then you win.
Well, so then say they only get 1 win. That means Sierra's the only one who wins.
Well, we already have 3, but then yes, if only 1 more amateur team gets a win, then it would be
we didn't
only
really work
Sierra
out the
wins,
logistics, Magical. Like we didn't necessarily have a prize planned for this one, but at this point, I think that we'll have to make one. But with that
I want a
said,
belt or a crown.
You want a belt. We'll talk to Desrick about that. He's the belt maker. If you're just tuning in and you are confused as to what we're even talking about, don't worry. Proving Grounds, it is not the same as LCS. This is Tier 2 in North America, where all 10 academy teams get an opportunity to play play against the top 10 placing amateur teams at the Proving Grounds circuit qualifiers. And now we get this tournament happening where the developmental members of the LCS affiliated teams, the academy teams, are basically competing with the next generation of scouting in a way, as well as all kinds of collegiate teams, other pros that just weren't able to get an academy offer. Pretty much anybody still trying to go pro in the scene. That is what you're watching right now, and that is why it is such a fun show, because obviously everybody is trying to get to that next stage. That means they got a lot to prove. Speaking of, we actually got to hear from some of the players themselves on our media day, and we played a fun game with them and got their insights on some of the biggest players in this tournament that they would want to play with. So let's take a look.
If he's not on Kindred. Duo with Yuji, he's always popping off. And then Dopamine Shaden. I know some crazy stuff's gonna go down when he's in the game.
I don't like junglers. Can I just dodge all three?
Dodge all three? Alright, well, easy.
Well, Will and I were on a team together last year, so I kind of like him.
Dodge Bill, Duo Shaden,
Okay.
Yuji is left over.
I would dodge Shaden because he's either going to carry the game or just ping up people a bunch, and I don't want to deal with that when I'm playing a solo queue game.
Dopamine. I mean, if it's straight solo queue, Shaden's pretty good in solo queue, so I think I'll go with him. Dopamine, and Yuji seems like a nice guy, so I think we could duo.
Yeah, I mean, we're dodging Yuji. I mean, that's not even a question. Yuji has to be dodged. I mean,
Duo, probably I would say Shaden. I used to play on the team with him. You know, he's really good, and I think he's really funny. Be fun to play with him.
I will duel with Will because I know he tries super hard in solo queue, trying to get rank 1.
Respect that.
And I'd get a dopamine hit from UG because pro jungler on my team in solo queue. It's good.
Dopamine would definitely be Shaden. This guy's like the funniest person I've ever worked with. He's always like high energy. He loves to joke around, especially with Mitch. I guess I'd have to dodge Yuji. I think in our series he ganked me a lot mid, so
It was personal.
it was definitely personal, yeah.
Will, duo just because this guy is like in solo queue, he'll just play Rek'Sai and level 3 gank. Like in solo queue, he doesn't actually use his brain. He just picks a level 3 jungler and runs into a lane and hopes he gets a kill.
Honestly, I think I'd probably duo with Shaden. I think that guy's a hard climber. He's always down to play. Like, he's literally like top 10 every season, I'm pretty sure. So I'm down to get carried to high challenger by him.
Think about this. Think about this.
I have to do dopamine Shaden. I have to, like, this guy,
I'm not lying.
he
yeah.
will bark at me for an entire year if
He
I
is
don't
literally-
play dopamine here, guys.
He's
Like,
literally the funniest guy you've ever met.
yes, literally like top 2 like funniest person I've ever met. So if I didn't choose him, I think I'd be trolling.
I love how the Cloud9 Academy members said dopamine for Shaden, not duo. They didn't trust that he would carry them in rank, but they know he's going to be fun to play with.
Well, it's kind of like me playing with you. I'd never trust you to not int, but you would be fun to play with.
You know what? I'll take
Yeah.
it. And I can't really, deny that. So, yeah, we'll roll with it.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd probably duo with myself because you guys are too low elo to play with me. I'd probably dopamine hit with Kangas because then I'd know there'd be a Pantheon on my team, and then
Let's
I would
go.
dodge Magical because he would play AP Jinx support. So I don't want that.
AP Jinx? Honestly, now I want to see that.
I've done
Magical,
it.
next time we play
I've
ARAMs
done it.
together. Next
So-
time we play ARAMs, I got to see that.
So you level up Chompers first, and you get Leandry, so you get this insane burn whenever they connect.
See,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
entirely made
That's
that
the
up on the
only
spot,
AP
and he
scaling,
already
by
has
the
the
way.
build for it.
Only AP scaling on Jinx, by the way, is the Chompers. Nothing else does that. All right, let's take a look at the schedule going forward here today and take a look at the matches that you'll get to see on your glorious screen in front of you. FlyQuest Academy versus Dignitas Academy take to the stage first, and then Team Liquid versus Evil Geniuses. Again, if that surprised you, or if you were not aware of the schedule, probably because you're not following a very specific Twitter account, make sure you're following at PatTheLCS, where you can find all of our schedules, all of our crazy content shenanigans that we put out, as well as even updates on things in the amateur circuit. But of course, it's ProvingGrounds now, so everything's going to be about ProvingGrounds. Thank you, Magical, for the visual representation, as well as our production for having the lower third visual
I
representation.
was say, isn't that just double visual representation then?
See, now we need to make a bit where like Smacks has one too, so like you raise it up and then Smacks raises it up and then like I raise it up at the end, and then we could just have like our socials guy would love that. He's on break today, so he's not actually going to see this. But
you know what I do have for you is a shout out to J2, who is on socials today, coming over from Unified. Big shout out to J2. I love that guy. He worked with us all throughout the amateur circuit for the entire year. So glad to have him here today.
Very good guy.
Love the help here while Austin is on his break. But with that said, let's get into a first match of the day. Of course, we have best of threes still on this side of the upper bracket, and our first match being FlyQuest Academy versus Dignitas Academy. I want to start by talking about the history of these teams and how they got to this part in the tournament, because of course, both of them are coming from the Academy regular season. And starting off with FlyQuest, they had a really strong start, Magical. If you remember back week 1, they were 5-1. They were riding high. And then they steadily dropped into that 6th place spot for most of the split.
So for FlyQuest, they were one of 2 teams to retain their rosters from spring to summer at the very beginning. Philip then got promoted up while Kumo came down, and you could tell that they just didn't have that same synergy. It's not the same when you played with the guy for the entire split and actually have learned one another's tendencies and tactics. Like, that's what we saw as the initial problem for FlyQuest in spring at the very beginning. You could tell that they didn't have that synergy, but they were able to build it up over time. And now that they have Kumo on the roster, they've slowly been building up that cohesion, the synergy over time.
And they got the 6-0 in the final week. Super Weekend Academy. They're up against Dignitas Academy, who were bouncing between 7th and 3rd in the standings throughout the regular season. And the big story behind Dignitas Academy, as we look at their roster here, you'll see that XU bumped up to LCS, Perry coming in, Gamsu, same as well, Hoon is up there, and Spawn even got bumped up. So this is a very different Dignitas Academy roster that we're seeing in ProvingGrounds than we had in the regular season of Academy. Smacks, what do you think so far about how the team's been coming together, how everything's fitting with all this craziness that was thrown towards Dignitas Academy?
A Dignitas jungler? Perry the Dignitas jungler.
I didn't know where you were going with that one.
That was great. Oh my god.
But I'm happy that you went there. I am happy that you went there.
I am too. I'm glad to see Perry here. He's been bouncing around a few teams all throughout this entire year. He had an appearance on Evil Genius's Prodigies earlier, then made his way over to 300, and he was playing and subbing for a few other amateur teams. He's been bouncing around, and I've been having a great time watching him. I've been having a great time watching Neo as well in the Academy roster. They haven't actually played too many games. Our most recent look has mostly been our entire look of them, where they perfect gamed AoE esports. Really solid stuff from them in that series,
4-2. 4-2 since the roster changes. But the player we want to highlight, and the match that we want to highlight for this match in particular, is the mid laner. So let's start with FlyQuest Academy and talk about Spyrax. This is somebody who has been impressing us immensely so far. Honestly, ever since he came into Academy, he's coming in from his collegiate journey in Maryville. And how can you not love somebody that can befriend a raccoon? Which I don't even know how you do.
Wait, how do you not know how to do that? I thought everyone does that.
Can you teach us?
I'm going to need a breakdown. Can somebody explain how to befriend a raccoon? Yeah.
So you get cotton candy, you give it to it, it'll go wash the food off, because that's what raccoons do, and it'll melt away, and so you can laugh.
I mean, I've seen that video that you're referencing on Twitter, and I know that you just stole that content, and I want you to feel ashamed of yourself.
I don't, because I've done
Do you have a better
explanation? Sad? I feel like you just have to be nice to the raccoon. I feel like that's being mean.
It is.
I don't want to take advice from you for befriending a raccoon anymore. I don't think this strategy will work.
Well, maybe we can hear from Spyrax later on, because if he wins, he was the member that I was hoping that I'd have a chance to sit down and chat with, mostly about the raccoon, mostly, if we're being honest. But the big thing is the matchup against Insanity is that these are two of the higher-powered mid laners that we have in ProvingGrounds when we look at, honestly, things like individual performance as well as how they're playing with the team.
Spyrax got to play a couple of games against Golden Guardians, both of the Wind brothers in those games, Yasuo and Yone, and really just wrecked house on both games. I was super impressed with his performance on these champions. Very high-octane gameplay from him, and I know we even got that that POV clip where I believe it was Diamond who said he was, paraphrasing here, urine smurfing on them. So great stuff from him.
And
I don't
then
know
you
what that
got
means.
I don't know what that means either, but then you have Insanity on the other side, and I think Insanity is going to be a great test for Spyrex. I think that their matchups this entire season have always been really fun. I had to include that because it was just a beautiful wave clear. But Insanity is this player that I feel like has really been the carry for this new roster. Like, when they find success, it's off the back of Insanity. Even in this game, this one right here where he plays Rise, he was ganked 3 times right away. He was 0-3 to start off the game, and then bounced back into that one, and ended up, I think, with 7 or 8 kills, and only dying once afterwards.
And that's against AoE Esports, one of the amateur teams coming in that we had pretty high expectations for in terms of, you know, who from the amateur side of things will be able to provide competition for a lot of these academy teams, especially when you factor in all the roster changes. It's cool that a rock like Insanity can continue to perform. But we also got a chance to sit down with both of these players ahead of the games and ahead of Proving Grounds in general to get their thoughts on how the teams are shaping up into the event. So let's take a look.
Going 6-0 in our last week before PG definitely helps us on, like, it kind of shows our growth and makes it so that we will be really confident coming into PG. Though I don't think if we had lost like some games, it wouldn't have been that bad, because like a lot of times when we lose, like when we lose our matches, like we come back in our scrims pretty seriously and stuff, and so we try like more, I feel like, a lot of the time when you come back from like a losing week. So I still think it's nice for like the confidence and stuff, but we have to, like, as long as we're not complacent from this week, from last week, we should be okay.
Honestly, it's pretty much the same. Not like the exact same, obviously, because there's different people, different personalities, but me and Juan, or me and JJ, both trying to keep it like relatively the same vibe. We always listen to music before games, just come in, blast, pretty much like, it's like club music sometimes, or just rap, but you know, we always try to get people pumped up, ready to play. Just have a good time, you know?
Insanity's just such a chill dude. Actually talking to him in real life, his name and the way he plays do not reflect how he is as a person when you just sit him in a chair and have a conversation with him. But sometimes I love it when there's that kind of like duality in players.
Isn't that more important that his name matches his gameplay?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I suppose so. Auto Rift seems like he's the vibe master, bringing the tunes for the team. I love that.
Of course, Insanity versus Spyrex is the matchup that we want to highlight, but as we take a look at the rosters again, there's another player that we want to give a shout out to. Somebody who's very new in their League of Legends career, and that is, of course, Perry. We talked about him a little bit before, but this is a player who's thrown into a really interesting situation in Proving Grounds. He had an opportunity to play 2 best of 2s in the Academy regular season. You see that Academy splits down there, Smacks? 0.1. That is not a typo. That is actually how, technically it would be 0.11111 repeating, but we couldn't fit that in there. So he got 2 stages, or 2 series experience before getting thrown into the biggest tournament for all Academy players of the entire year. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, and he perfect gamed AoE Esports as well. Like, this is not a performance that we can ignore right now. Playing a couple of games of Volibear to lock down the early game in those ones against AoE. I'm expecting some big things from him. He is by all accounts, the least experienced player on the Academy side of things that we have in this entire tournament. That's what makes him so exciting. We get to see if he can actually keep that hype that we've had from him the entire split long and perform on this very, very large stage, as you called out. I personally, knowing that he's on the team even, have this team placing in top 4 in my bracket.
Ooh, that's interesting. Magical, I want to get your thoughts because you had an opportunity to actually see his gameplay in Scouting Grounds.
Yes,
on that
I did.
graphic, he won Scouting Grounds, the last Scouting Grounds, as that is no longer an event going forward. And I think that's kind of like a cool statement to say, I won the last Proving Grounds, and I started playing League when I was 9 years old in Season 2. Like, we're at that state where there's this age gap between players that were super young in those early seasons, but still his career has been fantastic to watch.
So, when I watched Perry, there's a reason why I always mention it. His cane was honestly my favorite thing. It was a treat to watch in Scouting Grounds, and I'll always sing the praises of Perry on that champion, wanting more of it. But I also do want to kind of credit like how that Proving Grounds went for him, because he talked about how Chad taught him a lot, but also he played against Gamsu. Gamsu was a part of that as well.
Yeah.
And so now he's on the same team as him. So they have talked a little bit in the past, and having some sort of synergy prior does help the team.
Making the best out of a rough roster situation for Dignitas Academy. Still hoping to make a deep run in Proving Grounds up against FlyQuest Academy. Scaling as the season has gone on, and I'm hearing that Pick and Ban is ready. So, Magical Smacks, I'm going to toss it over to you for game number 1.
Thank you, Kangas. We will see you after this game for a nice halftime show or third-time show, whatever you want to call it, depending on how the series goes. But here, Dignitas Academy, FlyQuest Academy. Smacks, I have a fun little fact for you about these two teams.
I love those.
Both these teams in every single Proving Grounds have had at least one, well, have had a best of 3 against one another since the very beginning of Proving Grounds. And you want to know what the record are for them?
So, I would love to know the record.
In the lower bracket, whenever they faced off, FlyQuest has won every time. That's 2 of the 3 times. But when they faced off in the upper bracket, Dignitas took that series. So you have something where they've played against each other, even if it's very different iterations. And plus, that FlyQuest iteration that lost to Dignitas was entirely different. No player was the exact same on that roster, while Dignitas only have the carryover of JJ.
That's super interesting. I assume that the upper bracket win for Dignitas happened in summer last year as well. So it's summer both times, right?
It was.
Yeah, because Dignitas had a pretty deep run in the last year where they played. So pretty exciting stuff for Dignitas. We got a few bans on the board already as we're here into this draft. Azir, Viego, and Trundle really attacking the jungle here on the side of Dignitas Academy. And FlyQuest kind of doing the same thing with the Poppy and the Wukong, also throwing Kalista in there. It seems like Neo keeps getting this champion banned away from him for good reason. He's got very solid win rate on this champion in his entire career. And I've been looking at the numbers for Neo specifically because I think him in this tournament is very interesting to talk about. I already mentioned his Kalista all time is a really solid win rate for him, but in this year in isolation, for the summer split when he was playing in LCS, he was put on a lot of champions that try to play for that early game and don't have a lot of late game agency. He played a lot of Lucian, didn't actually win a game on it. So far in Proving Grounds, he's played Aphelios and he's played Jinx. Late game carries that facilitate the entire team with a lot of damage later on. He's looked a lot better on those champions, and I think they're going to continue that.
We've seen that meta shift, right? It's been much more about the scaling ADCs. You already see Domo grabbing the champion that he was playing immaculately in that 6-0 last week run, and even looking at how he's played in the Proving Grounds with that champion. So it's no surprise there, but looking on the other side, Perry going for Volibear. It's, I guess, makes sense. There aren't that many junglers to take at the moment.
Yeah, he has played Volibear in all of his Proving Grounds games so far, continuing that trend. Pretty surprising also, considering there are 4 jungler bans in the first phase and none of them are Volibear, when he did look pretty solid on that one just yesterday. Paired up with this Taliyah, they are a very lethal combination where you stun them with Volibear and then you have the seismic shove to effectively 100 to 0 somebody if they don't have any means of escape. Something like an Ahri is really good at that. We'll see what they can do with that combination. There's that Jinx that I mentioned for Neo.
And then Nocturne for Yuji, third R. That's like, what? I have not seen that early of a pick, especially because we did see a lot of jungle focus, but I feel like there are still other junglers that have a higher priority than Nocturne.
Yeah, this is a mid-jungle combination that we've seen a little bit in Amateur. 100 Thieves Next are actually the ones who play this a lot. The combination of the 2 ultimates together provides you with a lot of lethal threat onto one target, and it usually will end in you getting a reset for Ahri. So if you are combined with those 2 champions, they can be very, very powerful. Not so great in extended 5v5s though, because like you know with Nocturne, he ults, he dives in, kind of just stays there and hopes he lives. So that's not really what you expect from a team fighting champion most of the time.
And with the fact that they want to dive in, I like that Renata ban. I like the Braum ban from FlyQuest Academy. The Gwen ban also makes sense. We've seen that Gwen has been resurging back into the meta and has been quite disturbing to see how much you can just absolutely 1v9. Personally, I think that they should just switch the W and ult, but that's just me. That way it may make her a little bit more balanced. But looking at the final ban, Tom Kench, I was going to say I'm surprised that that was banned because I thought FlyQuest were purposely leaving that open so Dignitas would take it so they could go for something like a Nautilus or Blitzcrank for Diamond.
Well, they went with the Nautilus anyway, as they do have some more aggressive threat on the side of FlyQuest Academy. This is a kind of game where you see Aphelios slot in very early, and he's very flexible with like what you expect him to do in terms of damage and utility. This is the kind of game where you're almost always going to purple gun ult. So then you get all of the roots down, you set up for your team and make sure they can get those assassinations. Very difficult to root an Alistar though, as that's going to be the lock-in for JJ. Really exciting.
We haven't seen many of the cows lately. Gonna be ringing the cowbell up on the Rift for JJ classic pick. Something that goes way back in time. I mean, he's been meta for many, many, many seasons. Just hasn't been as of late. To have that for JJ and for Gamsu, it could be that Aatrox that he's been popping off on. And when you think back to the 1v5 outplay he had, even just last week where he had the 1v3 outplay that was the dive top lane that he turned around for 2 kills. This guy knows how to play this champion, even though everyone always likes to talk about him being more of that tank style, the facilitator. His Aatrox is one of those few things that you always have to fear.
Well, when it comes to the tanks, this is something that he's been playing a lot when he was on the LCS team for Dignitas, but also even back when he was playing for 100 Thieves Academy, when they won in the summer of last year, he's playing a lot of those tanks. Again, very similarly to what Neo's champion pool has looked like, it's shifted when they've been brought down to Academy. And it's led to Dignitas playing this Aatrox and the Gnar as well against AoE. And I personally was under the impression that that was more of just a response to what Zamudo was expected to play, but it does look like Gamsu is just going to be playing this Aatrox into any champion. Like you said, he's very comfortable on it, and it is more of that bruiser style for Dignitas Academy. I'm liking the look of it. I love to see Gamsu playing more aggressive and in your face.
Yeah, I do too. It's always a fun look, especially when you have something like Volibear on your team for parry. This is really a time for them to kind of tag team, look to see if they can do this mosh pit with an Alistar on their side. But then over for FlyQuest, I feel like it's the opposite. They just want to pick someone. They want to find a pick. They set up 1-3-1 and don't really want to interact against that full 5v5.
Skirmishes definitely favor FlyQuest Academy with just the champions alone. Both sides looking for resets, though. I almost said Magical. I was combining Alex and Magical.
Add Magical.
Magical. Yeah.
Summer, should I call you
like
Max?
Yes. I think that works. I think that works well.
Okay, back into what we were talking about, though. This is the second time that Dignitas and FlyQuest Academy are meeting in the upper bracket in the entirety of ProvingGrounds. And keep in mind, ProvingGrounds has only been around for 2 years. So the fact that they've faced each other every single ProvingGrounds is kind of impressive to see, as well that we see the lower bracket tends to be dominated by FlyQuest, while the upper for Dignitas. And Dignitas had a perfect game last week, and I'm curious to see. That just means every one of these players is leveled up, and the only way to really, truly see that, Snacks, is by getting onto the Rift right away, starting this game up, getting excited, getting hyped for our upper bracket, because this is ProvingGrounds. Dignitas Academy, FlyQuest Academy have faced each other every single time.
3 things are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and Dignitas Academy versus FlyQuest Academy in ProvingGrounds. It's flip-flopped in terms of the results. Just based on history alone, Dignitas should be favored. If what you're saying is correct, Magical, I'm not going to fact check you right now just because I trust you so much as my friend.
See, this is why I wish I could quote the Metal Gear Solid thing where it's like, that's fine, but where's your source? And it's like, I made it the F up. No, but I actually did research that. It is actually something that I looked up because I was like, how many times have they played each other in ProvingGrounds? And I look, I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Crunch.
You know, funny enough, they also played each other 4 times during the Academy regular season, because that's just how that works. Dignitas got the 2-0 first.
No, I'm not letting you get away from that.
That's just
how it works. That doesn't. And they played each other 4 games. This is best of 3s.
That's still right. I didn't say anything wrong.
Yes, but it angers me still.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I think Dignitas, though.
I think, therefore,
as I was saying, they won the first 2 games that they played against FlyQuest in the first best of 2, and then they lost the second time that they played against each other, as it was in week 7 during FlyQuest's 6-0 week, where they were completely dunking on people. As you said, ramping up throughout the split, where they now have Kumo on the roster as opposed to Philip. looking a lot better as of late. They didn't lose a game in their series in the first round of ProvingGrounds either. Let's see if they can keep that momentum going.
Especially because when you look at FlyQuest, they were one of the 2 teams that had one of the biggest slumps we've seen in Academy seasons. The other one being Immortals. So the fact that they were able to bounce back, get a 6-0, it was against Dignitas, this roster, when they first got together. So take that all with a grain of salt, because now we've already seen the level up. Now that these players have gotten more games with one another, more scrims, more practice, even just the one series here in ProvingGrounds showed that these players are incredibly talented.
Let's talk a bit more about the game in front of us right now, these 10 champions and how they work. Dignitas, I already mentioned, they have that reset potential. They've got Neo on top of this Jinx. Hold on one second.
I'm a bit surprised by this one, because look at where Diamond is, already rotating around. They already got the fear on a parry, but there's JJ, spotted out by a ward, so Yuji will fall back. Might have to sacrifice this. They don't have priority in bot or mid. So Perry, understanding that he had the power, Volibear into Nocturne, level 3, with the backup of his entire team, takes the jungle easily.
Yeah, very nicely done there for Dignitas Academy. You initially do have that panic, like you just did, Magical, where you see Perry, he's in the enemy team's jungle, spotted out by Yuji. What's Nocturne gonna do to you, though? And that's the question that he already knew the answer to. Absolutely nothing. You already had the bot wave pushed in, and Perry gets to cleanly steal away that blue buff, leaving Yuji with little to nothing to do as he's swept away to that top side of the jungle. He's just gonna have to recall. There's literally nothing over there for him.
No, looking at Perry as jungler, there's a reason why we kind of highlighted him, is the fact that he is this new player. This guy who's really new to Academy, but not new necessarily to amateur. The fact that he's able to kind of do this early game play against someone like Yuji, who's been one of our most controlled and honestly best tempoed junglers we've seen, where he's always in the right place, right time, utilizing the power of his lanes at every moment. The fact that he's falling behind a Perry is a good sign for Dignitas.
Actually, speaking of junglers, did see a good read there for Yuji. He actually canceled out Insanity's recall. I don't even know if that's what he was intending to do, but he got it regardless, and that puts Insanity pretty far behind all of a sudden in this matchup. Spyrax is going to get... Oh, he actually isn't even going to recall. He's going to push another wave, saving his teleport for later. And Insanity playing the Talia doesn't have teleport.
Exactly.
You can move around the map a little bit faster, but he was not able to stay in that lane. He was completely out of mana, so this gives Spyrax a nice timer.
But Perry has been having plenty of time on his own to move around the map, and he's looking towards the bot lane. JJ wants to be able to get in with a flash to pulverize, but just going to get the flash out of Diamond to escape.
All right, Perry on a ward, I believe, that entire time. Oh no, that's a very fresh ward.
It's very fresh. He was not on a ward, but Tomo and Diamond were playing very passively with how JJ was stepping up aggressively.
No matter how the ward landed, Diamond forced to flash, and maybe a return gank is on the way, or maybe just more aggression from JJ. You do have a lot of all-in threat on this Alistar. It's not a pick that we've seen around the meta in this support position all that much recently, Magical, but the headbutt pulverize is still as good as it always has been. You still have that immense amount of crowd control just from level 2, so Diamond will have to be careful, especially now that Neo is getting a fresh recall off for more damage.
And the one I always look at is flash being available for Alistar, because you don't even want to get the headbutt pulverize combo then. You want to go for the flash pulverize, then headbutt them towards your team to make sure you're getting as much distance away from supports or safety as you can possibly get. And right now, you can see how Tomo is understanding that. He's got a good size lead against Neo. He's been relatively safe. The wave is going to crash back. Neo won't be there in time, so it's going to be mostly JJ absorbing a lot of the experience.
If he even wants to do that, right? Because he can stay outside of vision and threaten a roam. Even if he's not actually roaming, the other 2 lanes on FlyQuest have to stay back. He's going to choose to get the experience regardless, as we do see that, but there was a brief moment where the members of FlyQuest Academy did have to play a little bit farther back, because you were mentioning how versatile Alistar's flash can be. You can surprise gank someone from so far away with a headbutt pulverize with the flash.
And at the moment, we're seeing some rotations. Diamond and JJ, 2 of the more experienced members on these teams, at least when it comes to Academy itself and ProvingGrounds. Both kind of hanging around that mid lane, trying to see if they can set up Insanity and Spyrax, which we haven't really seen that much action outside of Yuji canceling that one back. And we hyped this mid lane up for a reason. These 2 players, especially when it comes to the team fights, have been absolutely carrying their teams in many, many ways.
the team fights, the skirmishes, really any player-to-player combat, as we saw quite a bit of in both of their respective series. I remember Spyrax just trouncing people on that Yasuo. We got so many highlight clips of him playing that champion, even just setting up his own knockups. It was beautiful. You remember the Beyblade combo that he had?
Oh,
it was
that
crazy.
flash. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was just disgusting.
Can't quite do that on Ahri, unfortunately.
I've seen some crazy things with Ahri with your charm.
She spins a little bit less though than Yasuo, and that's what I really want to see. I want to see some spin moves.
Well, I hate to tell you, the only one that's really gonna spin is probably gonna be Nocturne, just based off his passive.
Oh yeah.
But outside of that, we're not gonna get much spin action. But back into what we were talking about in this game, Perry was able to get the pretty easy dragon right there, since his bot lane still has priority, his mid lane still has priority. The only one that lacked any of that priority is as expected in this top lane.
You know what move a spin actually makes, Magical?
A spin.
No, it's called a rotation. And that's what I want to see from the bottom lanes when it comes to the Rift Herald. Because that's a pretty good objective to take. It's recently buffed. It now gives you triple the gold. And I remember a line on LCS this last weekend, and it's entirely true. You get you get the full Rift Herald gold, which is 300 local. You also get 2 plates, and maybe even more. You can get about 1,000 gold out of Rift Herald now with the changes. So I want to see some rotations up there. It looks like we're not going to get them, just remaining in this bottom lane. And we might actually see Yuji sneak this one away.
Should be able to get it. I talked about how the one lane with priority is Kumo in that top lane, or about to go Mega as well. So it will make it really tricky for Perry and Sanity to get in there as Gonsu gets focused away. And they even use the Paranoia. They don't even try to complete that. But World Enders popped in. That trades it. Wait a minute. You might be at first blood, but you lost the eye, and Perry should be able to trance on over there and just pick it up.
Wow. All right. So we're seeing where the priorities lie with these two teams right there. Leashing the Rift Herald was just a bait in the end in FlyQuest. We're more looking for the player-to-player combat that we already said they're so good at. You see the lethality of the double ultimates with Nocturne and Ahri put to good work there. You will just kill an isolated target. No matter how tanky they are with those two champions, the combination of damage and crowd control is immense. We're about to watch that onto Gamsu again. But as we were already talking about, you get so much gold from just being near Rift Herald when it dies, if your team is the one to kill it. So I feel like Dignitas are actually going to walk away with more gold once they drop the Herald.
I agree. And that's why I was surprised to see FlyQuest not just hard commit and use the Paranoia to scare away the Dignitas members, like you sometimes see. Just be like, hey, back off, you can't see that, we're going to be able to take it, and then turn. And now Dignitas have this advantage bot lane. It's insanity. These roams already getting a kill onto Tomo to return a kill back from the earlier play.
There is that combination there from JJ, the headbutt pulverize with the flash. The engage range on that is disgusting, and we get to see it combined with Insanity.
Wait a minute.
Turret.
Parry's here too, and that's going to be the Homewrecker effect, and Diamond taking a lot of the damage. He's burned, and he's killed by the resets that come in from Neo, but they are just making sure they have everything. The TP got canceled, and they got 2 kills.
Oh, I believe it was Insanity who canceled out the teleport option from Spyrax. Oh, that's so brutal there, as Dignitas Academy are able to get a super clean dive. I love that you're able to shout out the Ohmwrecker effect, Mad Magical.
Of
I'm
course.
sure that's just your favorite part of the game whenever Volibear gets to do that. I got good news for you. Perry, very good at the Volibear. They cash out on the Rift Herald. Everything's so clean.
Well, and this goes back to Scouting Grounds, where we talked about Perry and his adventures there, where he played up against Shad, he played up against Gamsu. But another thing that I didn't get a highlight before is this guy is actually, he was voted the most improved player by the coaches and staff that were part of Scouting Grounds. And you can see that he has been a player that has really been learning well and fast as a player. I love this dive because they start off with Neo taking the damage. They make sure that they trade that, and here it is. Yeah, just a simple seismic shove to cancel the TP.
Oh, the read there from Spyrax was that Insanity was already moving down, because you already see Perry underneath the turret. The immediate assumption is that Insanity is there, because he is Talia, he is this roaming champion, did already have full completed boots. I think it's a safe assumption to make, but Insanity just had the counter read, where he's able to stop the teleport from Spyrax. it just goes to show the mind games that you can still play, even if you're not really fighting each other in the mid lane, still very valuable to get into your opponent's heads.
And Insanity is a player we highlighted for that reason. He's great at making sure he roams around, and now let's see if he can show up in time. Does not have Weaver's Wall, so his team a bit far out. That's the dive into the back line with a double knockup coming in from JJ, but they have to sacrifice both a cow and a bear for this play. Their hubris came into full effect as their 2 kills picked up by FlyQuest.
Better late than never on those circular movements here. Magical FlyQuest bring all of their team up for the rotation in the top lane. Not a whole lot to play for there, but they do get a couple of kills with the counter response. And again, it's just that mind game that you keep expecting to see and wanting to see from these players, just knowing each other in and out. Maybe that does come from playing against each other as teams many, many times throughout ProvingGrounds history.
You get that experience with one another. It helps out, bounce back where early game starts to go a little bit awry. They lost that Rifter. There was a good shift of gold to Dignitas Academy's side, but now not exactly equated by FlyQuest, but they definitely are going to be more content with how these plays have been interacting, as well as getting them a little bit more vision control back on the Rift.
And you may be thinking as well that there are a lot of roster moves between these two teams over the course of those 4 ProvingGrounds where they played against each other. But one thing has remained the entire time.
JJ.
Supports. They've been there every single time. JJ
Well,
and Diamond.
Not every time. Last summer, Diamond was in the LCS. Dreams was the one playing in the academy.
Oh,
yeah,
you're right.
So every time Diamond has played, they've not lost against Dignitas in the ProvingGrounds. However, JJ has taken a win against FlyQuest, and he has been the one constant through it all. Having the fact that you have a very strong bot lane in Tomo and Diamond, which was deemed the bot lane with cheat codes, but then struggling in the summer split with one another, where it didn't seem like they had that same cohesion. It's been fought back a bit well. They've been getting themselves back into that position where they are, it just seems like with Tomo on more of these hyperscaling, more traditional marksmen, he just feels so much more comfortable.
Yeah. I think for Neo, it's the same way, funny enough. Both of these bottom laners have been looking a lot better when playing the late game scalers in the bottom lane. And that's always been Tomo's MO. We know him to be one of the most skilled late game team fighters. A little bit lacking when it comes to the lane. But I think against someone who is also playing to scale, it's not going to be as punished. And we see that now where Tomo is keeping pace in terms of that CS. He has his Mythic online. He's able to be a part of that last play, and we're expecting him to deal quite a bit of damage and the consistent damage of the late game team fights that is otherwise lacking in this skirmish comp.
That will be one of the issues if they remain even like they have now. Because these plays from Dignitas, it seems more like they're the skirmish comp, because they found out Diamond all by him lonesome, and then bot lane, it is the reciprocated play coming in from FlyQuest, looking for Gamsu, but Gamsu, he's done this before. You can't just dive him that easily. He flashed away from the gnarl, but the wall will connect, but he's still trading back. Gamsu, the legend in 1v2.
I can't believe it right there. Gamsu, he's able to flash respond to the Gnar ultimate as Spyrax.
Spyrax is in trouble. It looks like they're rinsing and repeating the spotlight play.
My God.
Yuji, don't take the tower like that. They turn it around. Even if Kun was able to get a kill back, Gamsu is a legend in these fights.
He's still going. Gamsu able to withstand it all underneath that turret. His ultimate wasn't even still going, so the healing was lessened, but he's still able to survive and hit those Darkened Blade sweet spots exactly on point. Yuji is too overzealous on the play. I wonder what happened in the mid lane. I don't think anyone died there.
No one died.
Both mid laners are still alive. I wonder what the result of that was as well. As I think Spyrax was pretty worse for wear at the back
He was forced to ult away. So he did escape, but it did cost him a bit. Even if you have a relatively low cooldown on Spirit Rush. It's not the best, not the worst. Should be up in time for the next Dragon. It'll definitely be up. It's 2 minutes away. What am I saying? Yeah. But looking at the players right now, you have a pretty sizable gold lead that has been gained by Dignitas, and we expected them to be more of the team fight composition, something that wanted to scale a bit more. They've been the ones really putting the pedal to the metal and forcing the hand of FlyQuest.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I still think their team fight is stronger than FlyQuest. So even though they haven't been going for it quite yet, and their skirmishes still look good, it's doubly bad news for FlyQuest, because this Jinx is going to be really scary. She has a lot of frontline in the Alistar, the Volibear, the Aatrox that you have to break through beforehand, or you have to pray that you can see her before and land a Nocturne ultimate with the Ahri. You have tools to do that. It's not nothing that FlyQuest has at their disposal. It's just difficult.
So is this the backup plan time? 1-3-1, no more skirmish, just go for side lanes, try to see if you can force the hand of Dignitas themselves and never let them group up?
I mean, maybe. Spearaxe and Kumo are pretty strong as well. They're accelerating at about the same pace as their counterparts here. It's just that the... Oh, wow. Yeah,
no.
JJ.
JJ finds Yuji. Yuji has no flash, no dash, and Perry eats him alive.
That's exactly what I was about to say. The solo lanes are doing just fine for FlyQuest right now. They're holding their own. It's the other side, the other members of the Rift that are really just falling to the wayside, falling victim to the roaming duo of JJ and Perry playing incredibly well together. It kind of reminds me of summer of last year, Magical, where we saw JJ take another recent jungler in Will under his wing and really show him the ropes, make him the shot caller, make him shine. We're seeing a bit of that in JJ today, and it's just so nostalgic and fun.
It is, and looking at how JJ has been as a player, he doesn't like the mama bear anymore because a lot of the players aren't as young as they were last split, but he still is great mentor, this teacher that really brings people under his wing, as you talked about, to really build them up. And where he had a little bit more time with Will last year, it already seems like Perry, the most improved player from the last scouting grounds, has really been the most improved. He looks far better on the map. He's gotten every single neutral objective, even if one was a little iffy. Now he might get caught out, but he still has ult, and he still has stopwatch available. Here's the Weaver's Wall. Was it just a bait? Did they just use Volibear to catch out FlyQuest? Get diving to go golden? No, maybe. Insanity. Dovon goes golden himself. Now Yuji taking a lot of the brunt of the damage. He's got to survive. They got to shut down. They got two. They're making sure they clean up. FlyQuest turn around the fight. It looked dire, but somehow they turned this back. Say, we are the team that wins in Proving Grounds. We will take you down here too.
Very brief panic on the side of FlyQuest that it might potentially be a bait, but all of that goes away when the Nocturne and the Ahri ultimates are used together. We have to watch for that synergy one more time. This is the power couple of the mid jungle shown in full spotlight. We have Perry is able to survive the initial onslaught, but then Yuji, he waits for Spearaxe to be in range and then dives forward once the Spirit Rush finally connects, once Spearaxe is able to deal all of this damage, not to mention the blue gun from Tomo, who is gale forcing in to get all of this AoE damage. All of FlyQuest really coming alive in the final hour where they were at such a major deficit, but these ultimates, they're just so key here.
Summer, that was a clean ace too. For a team that was behind almost 3,000 gold. It is an insane flip of fortunes for FlyQuest, and maybe that's what they had to do. They were just like, you know what? We actually have good team fight, as you called out. It's like, we're not that bad at it. It's early into the game. They haven't scaled up enough for us to be threatened in those full-on 5v5 fights.
And if Neo's not auto-attacking, then the team fight actually isn't amazing for Dignitas either. It's really just a matter of if Jinx can or can't auto-attack. That makes it the difference for Dignitas, and that makes their team fight a little bit better. So that's what we just saw. Neo, he's inside the paranoia, and maybe with that paranoia, I have to reassess on whether or not I feel Dignitas Academy's team fight comp is even better if Yuji's gonna keep using that tool so well.
Well, this is where you transition Alistar into more of the peeling tool that he's able to be. I think you no longer can rely on JJ to be the initiator. It's gotta be all on Perry, maybe even Insanity on flanks. Perry is struggling now to get a foothold back because Paranoia has been popped. They spot him out. Weaver's Wall will cut off the engage and the advance coming in from FlyQuest. So will deny a little bit.
Can't find the pinpoint precision target they were looking for right there, as all of Dignitas expertly communicates where they need to go. They all just fall back to the tier 2 turret in the mid lane. They all know exactly where they need to go. There isn't any threat of that paranoia landing. As you already said, the peeling tools of Alistar still rather strong. Alright, so you have ultimate.
Does
maybe
and
you can
flash.
escape.
should be able to. Gets the charm to make sure it's hard for JJ to get on top of him. They still make sure they root him in place and shove him back for a shutdown out of Perry. But TP, a little risky, a little dicey for Kuma to try to go for that after they had just lost Spyrex.
No Nocturne Paranoia, and you can already see how much worse those skirmishes are for FlyQuest Academy. Not playing on that timer will come back to bite them, and Spyrex has... we were surprised as well. Not enough tools to escape. He actually uses his Spirit Rush too late. Alistar's already in range of him.
Yeah, too late. Also, Perry being able to get on top of him right afterwards, so it's even more stuns and more lockdown tools. Pretty much, if you're Spyrex in that situation, I think you just go for you're spamming the Spirit Rush. You're like, get away, get away, get away.
Yeah, I'm feeling like, yeah, Spyrex just needed to do it a little earlier, but unfortunate for him, does not. We'll see, maybe he can go for a stopwatch of his own later on, as Insanity and Perry have already had theirs broken. We've seen some Volibears actually just go for full Zonias, but Perry has enough gold where he can actually go for the utility build and still look for some more Force of Nature to come, and already a Frozen Heart to stop a lot of that auto-attacking.
So I will say I still miss the days of AP Volibear. Those are fun.
Of course you do.
I just had to mention that, but getting back into this game, at the moment, it seems like both teams, very even foothold, and at the point of the game, 23 minutes in, FlyQuest do seem like the team that has the better end of it, because they got a lot of these two-item spikes. Well, you can see that even if Dignitas equate that, it really is one of those compositions where you want to get the 3 items on a Neo, so that Neo is going to be able to pump out all that damage.
Dignitas, they have to prevent the damage from coming through from this Nocturne.
Paranoia.
They have to do now.
JJ goes back in, gets knocked up on a diamond. They even use the rocket, but here's Spyrex not getting the charm though onto Neo, so they have resets. Neo is excited. He's got damage on Akumo, and look at how much he deals to them all. Even if Perry might die in the fight, they can turn this around on the back of Jinx as they chase down everyone on FlyQuest. Neo's here to party.
That's what I expected from the team fights there, Magical. Yuji and Spyrex, they don't land their ultimate combination onto Neo. He's safe the entire time. The charm goes wide, and Dignitas, they have so much frontline for this Jinx in this game. They even have the Talia Pebbles to keep everyone from dashing onto her as well. Just look at where Neo is allowed to play this entire time. He doesn't have anyone threatening him at all other than Spyrex, who doesn't land with the charm. Really nicely done on the dodge. Nobody else even close to it. Not a single time. And it's because of the peeling from JJ and Gamsu and Perry as well.
Exactly. Had that charm connected, probably going to be a completely different fight. But Neo, wise to it, saw Spyrex on the side, was able to sidestep, and then he got resets. And that's why you have a Jinx on your team. 3 items have been completed. That's the mark that we were saying for Neo. Even if a lot of people will say 2 items is actually the mark for Jinx, this is where it just becomes nearly unstoppable and difficult to actually touch Neo.
Stopwatch too. He's very safe in this game. He also has a lot of that damage, but it looks like FlyQuest, they're just going right back to it. They're going right back to start these ultimates again. They have Ahri ultimate, they have Nocturne ultimate. They just need to see Neo in a vulnerable position and they can pull the trigger.
Summer, they've also been able to get the Stormbringer out of Perry. We're trying to be defensive there. So it will be some time until that's back up. FlyQuest are still positioning themselves around this dragon. They only got 1, 2 on Dignitas. This won't be Soul, but you don't want Dignitas to have that advantage of Soul point potential.
Kumo does not have Mega. Don't let your eyes deceive you. You get a little bit of Fury from killing Gromp, but it can't recharge.
No.
Here might be engaged.
Insanity. Got a little dicey there. He was tagged by the purple gun. Here comes Moonlight Vigil to do a lot of explosive damage in the backline. And now they've got Yuji diving into the backline, but nobody was able to follow him up. And Gamsu did a great job of making sure he defends his team. And they are on the hunt for FlyQuest, but instead they are Dragon Hunters. They want to get that soul point potential. Well, FlyQuest, what can you do? What miracle can you pull off? Because now Neo is chasing down Kumo. Got the zap and tag, but he will be able to escape this time around.
It is again proving to be incredibly difficult to get on top of this Jinx. Neo so well defended, and now Dignitas, they take a kill onto the enemy team's jungler. They take a 3rd dragon into this game, and a bunch more gold onto their Jinx. Still stopwatch intact for the entire game. This is looking really solid for Dignitas, and they still have that Baron on their people.
Exactly. They have so much power in this, and even though it looked a little dicey for Insanity at first, the stopwatch delay, giving enough time, so even if you look at Tomo, he's so far away. He can do very little in this game, so when Yuji dives in, how is he supposed to be able to pump damage? He's too timid to actually step up.
Yeah, Tomo had already used his flash and Gale Force away. Similarly, Spyrax had already used 2 dashes from the Spirit Rush. I'm a broken record at this point, Magical, but it's just so true. Yuji and Spyrax need to coordinate their ultimates to get an effective team fight down for FlyQuest.
We saw that. When they got that 5-mana clean ace, they're able to do so. Gumo does TP top lane to dodge away from what would have been certain death, as they are actually initiating split push city. This is them saying, yeah, we don't think our team fight works anymore. I was talking about 23 minutes into the game works well, but we've now gotten to that point when Jinx has the 3 items. They're getting 3 items for some important members like Insanity, having that stopwatch. Even if Kumo is able to escape away from the Weaver's Wall, they're able to get a good amount of damage. So this is FlyQuest's backup plan.
That's pretty funny that Kumo made his escape teleport useful on the map. It's not every day that you get to see that one out of a defensive teleport. Maybe sticking around on this top lane as well, as that turret significantly less guarded from before. Looks like a reset angle.
Yeah.
FlyQuest instead, though.
I was about to say, this is definitely a reset angle, I think. You let Spyrax catch the wave, then you back, because you still have some time. There's not really anything to fight over on the map. No dragon, no Baron for 2 minutes. So you have this opportunity to get a little bit more gold, get yourself situated for that upcoming fight. Like, I would expect that Spyrax should be able to afford that Zhonya's now.
I was really hoping to see from Tomo that he was able to afford...
Okay.
Spirit Rush used. Wow.
Yeah, that's
big cooldown.
A big cooldown burn. Actually, it's level 16 now. It's not that big of a cooldown anymore.
Oh, yeah, I guess. It's something, though.
Yeah,
As I was saying, I was really hoping to see Tomo actually be able to afford Infinity Edge on that recall, but still waiting for it. We won't get the damage fully matched from both marksmen. Probably for the rest of the game, honestly, because Neo's already finished his for a long time. He already has a full BF sword working for the Guardian Angel.
So Summer, I didn't get to even say why stopping the back of Fire truly was important, because for me, it's not about the ult. It's about delaying that back for that Zhonya's as he now has in his inventory, so they can topple a tower. It might be traded in bot lane, but honestly, for nothing else to be on the map, no Baron, no Dragon, and they still get the tier 2 top, Dignitas were able to pretty much outgame FlyQuest just off the back of Insanity's read.
The items are here now for FlyQuest Academy, but a bit too late. As you were saying, the gold lead is quite large for Dignitas Academy. The big items, though, are the impactful ones that we were just highlighting. Tomo now has the Infinity Edge. That's the big damage spike for AD carry. Spyrax has Zhonya's. That is actually a big team fight playmaking tool, because this should allow Spyrax to more safely dive forward with the ultimate.
Spyrax isn't here in this one, TPing in as the Weaver's Wall came in. Nice triple knockup comes in from JJ, but they can't clean it up afterwards. They are now in danger. JJ's trying to run away as Yuji is in the backline, but he's tossed around. He might die, but they got Aatrox as well. Spyrax goes golden, as you called out. He's alive, he's safe. They jump on top of the backline. They're looking to see if they can take him down. But Neo, he's excited, fighting around the best he can. Dignitas, did you just turn this around? Or is it Kumo who's going to be the hero? And now with Insanity tagged up, unbelievable. Nearly a full ace for both teams. Only Perry and Diamond alive. And we know Bears somehow can tread through armor and will be able to hunt down his prey for the ace.
Ooh, a quadra kill for Perry to close out the team fight, and everyone's still dead on the side of FlyQuest. This could be a full inhibitor turret. No, he's retreating to the dragon, or maybe his own base.
2 seconds till Yuji spawns. I think that's actually a good call. But we take a look at this fight, and it is a doozy.
I actually want to take a look specifically at Gamsu's teleport. Firstly, he gets caught in the Talia wall, so he actually is delayed just a little bit, but then the crowd control chain prevents him from getting the final Darkened Blade. He actually does get shot down even after flashing forward. That might have been the difference maker from Dignitas still playing through this game, or maybe even fully winning it from that singular moment. But because of it, it's only one member on the side of Dignitas that survives. They are going to still remain in this one as they look to take the soul
Yeah, Weaver's Wall will cut off the retreat. They had to jump over themselves, even using as much as possible. It's so low, or are they going to be able to smite it away? And it's secured by Neo, and they execute the Shadow. They'll take down the Primordial Oral on the other side as they continue to hunt down FlyQuest. They're excited. They're all over the place, and they know that this is just cleaning up the game for victory in Game 1 against FlyQuest Academy.
Nicely played there again for Dignitas Academy. They're shrugging off the Nocturne, they're shrugging off the Ahri, and they're keeping their all-star bottom laner alive through and through. Neo stepping into the team from LCS, swapping it up with Spawn, still showing that he's got what it takes to win games in the Dignitas org as they take this series up to 1-0.
And they're one step closer to making sure that the upper bracket belongs to them whenever they face off against FlyQuest, because at the moment, even without minions pouring in, wait a minute, this game might not be necessarily over. There's only 4 seconds until Kumo spawns and 10 seconds until Tomo spawns. They will lose a lot regardless, but they actually do have some defensive tools, and I think Dignitas understand that, so they'll peel back and say, we got to get the Baron if we really want to end the game.
Man, that's a caster's nightmare. You say all these fun things about the end of the game, and then it keeps going. We gotta watch this attempt from FlyQuest again, though, as Spyrax and Yuji... I feel so bad saying this for a 4th time, but they're just not on the same page. They're not diving in forward. I think that time in specific, it's more excusable because they have different goals this time around. Yuji's goal is to try to steal away the Drake. It's the only way that they can feasibly win the fight after that, and Spyrax just doesn't really have a lot to contribute to that one. So I think this is the most excusable, but it is still, again, continuously unfortunate.
And for FlyQuest, pretty much backed against the wall in a composition that wasn't meant to last this long, especially up against the team fighting coordination that Dignitas had drafted for themselves. You look across the board, Perry, our most improved player from the last ever scouting grounds here. 9-3-9 in his 2nd series of the Proving Grounds. And he's got the Zonias. You called that out before.
Yeah.
He didn't go for it initially, but now he's got it.
Stasis is going to help out quite a bit. Keep him getting all those kills, and maybe another quadra kill is in our future, as we're getting some semblance of that AP Volibear you had nostalgia for him. He's got some AP, yeah? Does that count?
No, because this is typical. Okay. You go for this because it does allow a little bit of AP, but look at this power. Pretty much this game is forfeit. When you can't even step up, it's only 2 taking the Baron, and you know there's no way in hell you can ever get close to the pit.
Yeah, it's feeling like a let's think about Game 2 angle here for FlyQuest Academy. Baron on all the members of Dignitas. They're pouring into this top lane, the only inhibitor that they have yet to take. They don't actually have perfect vision here, but the sweeper gives them all the hints that they need to know to not walk into that brush where they will find a Mega Gnar Kumo. Let's see if Dignitas can get the triple inhib dream.
Well, all they had to do was wait it out Mega Gnar or Kumo so they can go in for the engage with the Weaver's Wall, cutting off any retreats. Instead, they're wailing away on the turret. Expected, down to 50%. Zat not connecting. They got the charm out of Neo, but Neo's still alive. Do they decide to dive on him? He's very, very low. You go for the dive or not, they just lose, and it's godlike for Perry. 10 kills to his name, and he is here to win the Proving Grounds with a new team and say, this is my time to shine. Show why I was voted the most improved player in the Scouting Grounds, with my team now being the most improved team in the Proving Grounds for summer 2022.
Wiping all the members, even in the fountain. Nowhere is safe from Dignitas Academy as they will take the first game. A very bloody one at that. And Magical, we're off to the races here on the stream today.
Wow, that was a very chaotic game. But as you called out, once they were able to group up together, Dignitas, they were the team that was destined to win.
You could see the angles where FlyQuest could potentially throw a wrench in the plans of Dignitas. It popped up very early into that game at around the 12-minute mark. It just couldn't replicate it after that. The peel tools were immense on the side of Dignitas Academy. The Alistar putting in a lot of work for how little we see that in the support meta today, it did quite a bit for JJ in that game, and I would love to see it again.
Shows comfort on a champ that's been around for a while, that a lot of players back in the day, I know, the Alistar was really considered like the premier support to really learn before Thresh was even a thing. That's just how long ago I'm talking about. I'm not saying JJ was playing back then, but it's just for me, that's how I see Alistar. So it's great to see how he's able to play that in this first victory for Dignitas Academy. We're going to toss a break. When we come back, we'll have our host for our either half or third time show. Not sure what to call it still, but we're going to get him back after a break.